Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows, while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a second since we've recorded.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I have my last crazy week of work trips. I just got back from Georgia yesterday, and I am going to Florida tomorrow morning for an overnight, and then we'll be back late Saturday. So
yeah.
I'm a little foggy. You were just like,
what's today?
What's today?
I was like, today's Thursday. I was
Yeah.
just like, I kind of had to do the same thing, just because, schedules get all mixed up. So y'all missed us on Tuesday. We did not upload an episode on Tuesday. I didn't post about it because I just have stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I could have very easily just made a post, but you're listening right now, so we did skip this past Tuesday. But you're gonna get, at some point this month, you're going to get you're gonna get 2 episodes on one day, so
Yeah.
we're not gonna miss out on any episodes. And also, our 100th episode is going to be the first episode of June, and we didn't want to mess that up.
Yes.
So that was kind of the main reason why we're going to do 2 episodes on one day.
Yeah.
So we're continuing May with adult animation. Once again, that is not porn coded. That is just adult. That is just prime time animation, or mature animation,
Mature audience,
TVMA. So we are entering a realm that Anna is not, I would say, very familiar with. We are entering anime. And
not Anna May.
Well, I mean,
April was Anna month, but
yeah.
This is anime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a show that I was into anime when I was in high school, when it first kind of became big in the U.S., because anime really kind of came to the U.S. kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Adult Swim on Cartoon Network kind of took off. And this was one that came out a little bit later. At least it came out in America a little later. And so it's called Death Note. And if anyone has never seen it before, it's definitely one of a kind, and it's definitely its own thing. I'll talk about my history with this show, and Anna will talk about what she thought about it. Was this your first anime?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm sure I've probably have seen
that
something.
You watched not hanging out with Patrick when he was 10?
Well, no, not even with
Okay.
him, but I think I've watched some anime
Okay.
of some sort before, but never really super paid attention to it.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, you can just go ahead and do some episode and series information, then we'll get all into that.
All right, Death Note, Rebirth. Death Note was a Japanese anime that originally aired on the Japanese network Nippon TV from October 4th, 2006 to June 27th, 2007, with a total of 37 episodes. The series is based on a manga of the same name. Mangas are Japanese graphic novels, in case you didn't know that. The manga was illustrated and written by Sugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. The anime was developed by Tetsuro Araki.
Nice.
The series was eventually brought to the U.S. and aired on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim on October 21st, 2007. The series focuses on Light Yagami, a brilliant but bored teenage genius who stumbles upon a mysterious notebook called Death Note. Light soon learns that whatever name you write in the Death Note will die within a certain amount of time. Most of the series centers around Light as he struggles with his new power over people's lives. Light was given the Death Note by Ryuk, a Shinigami, a god of death, who, like Light, is also bored and gives Light the Death Note for his own entertainment. Along with the manga and anime, Death Note has spawned 5 live-action movies, including one made in the U.S. starring Nat Wolff as Light, Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, Lakeith Stanfield as L, and Margaret Qualley as Mia, based on Misa. There's also a live-action version of the series, several novels, video games, as well as a musical.
Yeah,
And those are some, like, major players there in that.
So, unfortunately, the Netflix film was not well received, but I think it's an underrated depiction. But it's very American.
I mean, I love, obviously, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, and Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of my favorite, like, even old school.
I'm more of an Alex Wolff fan, but Nat Wolff is just as good.
Yeah. Death Note is not only considered to be one of the best anime, but one of the best TV series of all time, currently ranked number 37 on IMDb's top 250.
It's a lot of tens.
Yeah. Fans were immediately drawn into Light's moral dilemma and how the series deals with morality and vigilante justice. The cast of characters include our protagonist Light, Ryuk, the Shinigami, L, a mysterious detective consultant determined to find Light's true identity, Misa Amane, Light's love interest, and Sachiko Yagami, Light's father and the police chief. Several other characters are introduced throughout the series, but these are the primary characters in the beginning. You can currently watch the entire series on Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, Prime Video, and Tubi. You can watch the live-action TV series on Prime Video and the U.S. live-action movie on Netflix.
And then everything else you can rent on like Prime Video or whatever your renting platform is. Yeah, because they have. I saw all of the live-action movies, and I didn't even know about the Japanese live action movies that they did. I didn't even know that there was a live action series. Like, they really, no offense to Japan, but they kind of did what we do in America. They really milked the hell out of this series because it was so popular. All right, so this isn't your first anime, but this is definitely the first anime that like we've watched together.
And then I will say I like, obviously for the pod, legitimately paid attention to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's been on like the TV, and maybe I watched it with somebody or somewhere, but I mean, obviously I know of anime.
I do remember I was watching Cowboy Bebop one time, and it got your attention because there was a corgi. And they had and it was a corgi
Cute,
butt. And I said, look at the corgi butt. And you're like, oh, and I think that was the only thing you pay attention to. So what did you think? What did you think of it? What did you think of the pilot?
Really liked it. When you picked the shows for this month, and I was looking at the list, and I was like, Death Note. I was like, I had no idea what this even was. And we started watching it, and I always like things that pose these kind of moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do in this situation? I love a hypothetical.
Oh, I know.
And so I really liked it in that sense, that's what this anime was going to be about.
Yeah.
And so I was into it. And then once I realized what the Death Note meant, I was even more like, whoa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, really did like it.
Yeah, so this was a show that when it started coming on Cartoon Network, when it started coming on Adult Swim, I was living in Florida, and this was kind of during when I was kind of living by myself. I wasn't really going out. I wasn't really doing anything because I didn't have any money. And this was kind of one of my, like, binging shows that I think I watched it in, like, 2 days. Because it's 37 episodes, but they're, like, 25 minutes long. So, like, it was a super easy watch. And I think we all kind of have this fixation on vigilante justice. I think there's always going to be, I think we all kind of have a question of like,
what would we do?
Which we're going to talk about that in a second. But like, I definitely, first of all, I loved, even though it's all in Japanese and I have no idea what they're saying, I love the theme song.
Oh yeah. Super
catchy. It's one of those theme songs that you love that you don't skip because you just want to hear it because it's like just sounds like a good song.
Yeah.
Jordan, a guy I work with, we kind of have this joke because Death Note's like one of his favorites too, and we kind of have this joke because there's a lot of at least at the beginning of the series, there's a lot of Light kind of walking around, like talking to himself, and I was like, what if people did that in real life? Because it's like it's very like dramatic, it's very theatrical, it's very much like a play. How he kind of walks around and has like this inner monologue, and I was like, what if we just did that? Like, what if we just walked around and kind of just like narrated our lives and stuff, and we kind of have that big joke, but yeah, so I would watch this show, and I too would think about, like, would I do that? How would I use it? And yeah, I think that's a question that I think that's what most people were drawn in by the show, and that's kind of what drew you in.
Yeah.
So would you be interested in continuing to watch it?
Yes, especially since you told me that it kind of gets a little dark. I mean, it's
yeah.
obviously a dark
Yeah.
subject, vigilante justice. While it sounds like, oh, he's doing good,
Yeah.
it turns dark. So, yeah, I'm all about that.
Well, then another character is introduced, and they get their own death note.
Oh.
And so it becomes very interesting because it's someone that's very closely connected to Light. So, like, it ends up kind of becoming like what they as a whole are going to do with their power. And then it's really interesting because, like, Light is described as a protagonist, but after a while it definitely falls under like anti-hero.
And that's immediately what
Yeah.
I thought. I mean, and I'll just compare it to like a show like Breaking Bad,
Right.
where obviously
that is a great example.
where he
Yeah.
started out initially good. I mean,
Mhm.
he was trying to help his family, and then obviously it gets dark, very dark and insane.
Very fast, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what the interest is.
Yeah.
Again, going back to kind of living vicariously through someone else
Mhm.
or a character very unlike myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously I wouldn't want to be writing death notes, but
Mhm.
I mean, again, hypotheticals and what would you do in this situation? So I would want to watch
Yeah.
it. And it's not that many episodes.
And I found it interesting that L is described as an antagonist because I feel like he was the good guy. He hasn't been introduced yet in the
Yeah.
anime, but in the movie he's introduced very quickly. But yeah, it becomes like I was very interesting that he was described as the antagonist because, like, I don't consider him an antagonist. I consider him someone that was just doing their job.
Yeah.
And wanting to find the truth. Yeah, I kind of want to keep watching because I want to refresh my memory on all of it. But yeah, I'd obviously continue watching it because I've already seen it. But I love that I kind of picked Death Note on purpose because I knew that would be something. I was like, I think this could grab Anna's interest. I was in because
I just was like, whoa, that's a scary power.
Yeah.
How is he going to use it? And then it can't be just this the whole time.
Right.
I figured there had to be a turn at some point. And I think that's the danger with vigilante justice.
Yeah.
So
we've kind of
danced around
it, but like if you were Light, what would you do in that situation?
I think that's the danger, and I think that's kind of the moral dilemma that I obviously struggle with as just a very moral person. You know, you talk about vigilante justice. I mean, you and I talk like if someone hurt me or someone hurt you or Maddie or any of our family or friends, we would want to hurt them in some way.
Yeah.
But what does that solve? That may
Right.
not bring that person back, or that doesn't fix them. It only just sort of continues the cycle. So I can always see how vigilante justice, in a sense, seems like some sort of closure or satisfaction. And then I, of course, start deep diving into Anna mindset. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what happens if you write the wrong name down, or you're wrong about the issue that you think you're writing the death note about? Like, and you hurt or kill someone that was really innocent in the end.
Right.
So it becomes sort of this, like, in my mind, like, I don't know if I could do it. It kind of also reminds me, and when you talk about L, the whole concept of the Twilight Zone episode, The Button, where they're like, if you press this button, you'll get $1 million, but someone will die.
Yeah.
Well, people we know that we don't know die every day, so pressing the button and getting $1 million seems like that's a great idea until the button is passed to someone you don't know.
Right.
And that to me is just kind of the issue is, what if the death note is given to someone who doesn't like you or thinks you've wronged them in some way and writes your name in the book? And so those then become other moral dilemmas within themselves. So I think I struggle with that. I don't know if I could write someone's name down and be the reason that they are that they die. Because even, I've even told you, like, I wouldn't, I know you've always been very protective of me and have said, I would want, to kick someone's butt if they hurt you or something. And I have always told you back, I don't know if I would want you to do that.
Right.
I couldn't imagine you hurting someone, but I also wouldn't want you hurt in return.
Yeah.
So that to me is the back and forth dilemma of it.
Right. I think a lot of times, with Death Note kind of being the exception, because Light comes from a very privileged home. He has a very privileged life, and his dad's the police chief, and he's a genius. Grades come really easy to him. He's a very brilliant kid. So he lives a life of privilege. But there are so many times with vigilante justice where that's not the case, where it is someone who, like Eye for an Eye, the movie Eye for an Eye with Sally Field. That's a good example of vigilante justice. That's you kind of, when the legal system kind of fails and this monster is being being set free again. And, that whole movie is about kind of Sally Field's obsession with vigilante justice, where she's the only one who seems to want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And, there is this kind of whole thing with closure doesn't really exist. I've talked about, I've given my personal opinion about closure. Closure doesn't really exist. It really doesn't really matter what happens. It really is kind of up to you whether or not you're going to let this thing consume you or if you're just going to move on with your life. Like I said, it's different with in Light's situation because he's killing people that he feels that don't deserve to live, and he's trying to free the world of the garbage, quote unquote, because he's killing serial killers, rapists, he's killing pedophiles, just bad people in general. But at the same time, it's what gives you the right to have power over someone's life, even if they are a terrible person? It's I'm not going to be sad if this pedophile or this rapist or this whoever bad person dies of a heart attack or dies in this horrific accident, but you kind of, in your mind, you're well, that's up to fate. But that's if you believe in fate or the justice system. But when the justice system fails, it's just kind of well, he's going to get his karma, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they, Charles Manson died of natural causes. He lived and he died of old age. But then you have, that's what I'm just saying. People who, it's just maybe these people, and I think the question is, and what the big moral dilemma is these people, when the justice system does work out and these terrible people do go to jail, do they deserve to be alive? Do they deserve to even live and be in jail? And I think that's what another kind of question is, because, in Light's mind, jail, it becomes jail isn't good enough. It's you can get paroled, you can, get sick and be released from prison,
you're still living and you're getting fed 3 meals a day and you see sunshine. And for some people, that's not justice. So that's sort of also a question is how do you decide what is someone's justice, even if there is quote unquote justice? So it kind of becomes this never ending cycle of what gives this one person the power to make those finite decisions, and that's a dangerous thing. So I feel like it's a good show to watch in that sense, because you're making yourself think about those things. And I think that's also why, even though I've thought in my head, if someone hurt you or Kennedy or Gabriel or your mom or my sister or Maddie or anyone, what would I do?
Yeah.
I always lean back on, I don't know what I would do. Like, I know I would be filled with rage and hurt and sadness, but I am just not a normally like violent or physically violent person. So I don't know if I would want that. I would for sure want justice to be served and that person punished, but could I actually do anything? I doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel at the end of the day, we don't know what we're capable of until we're put in a situation.
Yes, exactly.
I think that there's a lot of that as well with Death Note and with any show or movie or whatever that deals with this type of moral dilemma. With vigilante justice, I mean, in a supernatural sense, Freddy Krueger was a vigilante justice, and then he came back from beyond the grave. I know that's like a fantasy. I know that's like a supernatural thing, but like, I think that also is even a good example of just like, that's not closure. Like, that's because the parents had to keep this a secret, and they had to, kind of carry that burden with the fact that they killed someone, and that was the whole point of the movie, is that the children were paying for the parents' sin, and even though it was justified, they still murdered someone. And so it was just like, it
kept going.
It's just this never, like you said, it's just this never-ending cycle. And right now we're continuing to watch Handmaid's Tale, and it's like, well, if there was ever a great example of justified vigilante justice, it's murdering the commanders and the wives of Gilead. And so it's just like, but is that going to give June and Moira closure? Is that going to get Hannah back? Like, and that's like the whole, once again, it's just like, is that what's really important? And, June finally gets freedom. Spoiler alert, if you're not watching the final season of Handmaid's Tale, what the hell are you doing? Get on it. Is, like, she got her freedom. She was reunited with her mother. She has her baby. She could have Luke and Moira, in Alaska with her, but
she keeps going back.
She keeps going back because she wants justice too. She wants Hannah back, but she also wants justice. But I think at the end of the day, that is going to not be good enough for her. And that's, as long as she gets Hannah back, I think that will probably be good enough for her. I can't wait to see how the show ends.
Oh, but, we've got 3 more episodes.
But we're not back to Death Note. It's just hard not to like make other comparisons because like there's so much content out there that deals with this topic, and it's so many great examples. But yeah, so do you want to get into the pilot summary?
Yeah,
all right, this is going to be a little bit short of an episode, but I think that's perfect because I think the first episode of Death Note was short and sweet. And,
it was, like I said, those 22 minutes,
I was
like, I was just very surprised. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So obviously you know what we think about it, but take it away.
All right, so we got the Death Note pilot summary. So I don't know if it's every episode, but for a while, each episode kind of introduces a new rule for the Death Note.
Okay.
And the thing with the Death Note is that there are a lot of rules. And so it's just kind of, I think they kind of had to cover, I think the writers kind of had to cover all of the, well, what if people question this part of it? Well, then we need to make a rule. I think that was like smart on their end because, and it also makes the Death Note a lot more complicated because you have to do very specific things. The timing is very specific. All right, so these are the rules that are introduced in the pilot episode. Okay, so these are the rules. The human whose name is written in the Death Note shall die. This note will not take effect unless the writer has the person's face in their mind when writing his or her name, and therefore people sharing the same name will not be affected. And that was what you were asking about, like, what if you said the wrong name? It's like you have to think about them.
And visualize.
So if you get it wrong, then nothing's going to happen.
Yes.
If the cause of death is written within 40 seconds of writing the person's name, it will happen. If the cause of death is not specified, the person will simply die of a heart attack. After writing the cause of death, details of the death should be written in the next 6 minutes and 40 seconds, which is very specific.
It is.
The Death Note shall become the property of the human world once it touches the ground. Once it touches the ground of the human world. The owner of the note can recognize the image and voice of its original owner, i.e. Ryuk. So Light is the only one that can see Ryuk. The human who uses this note can neither go to heaven nor hell. So that right out of the gate, it's like, so you're selling your soul. Like, you're selling your soul to use this Death Note. I think that's like the general idea.
Well, I think you're just gonna live in, like, what is it, like
in the realm where Ryuk lives in.
Yeah,
I think that's what the purpose is that Light is going to become a god of death.
Oh, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what what eventually is going to happen.
Okay.
In the Shinigami realm, a Shinigami named Ryuk seems preoccupied with something, while the other Shinigami relax and gamble. Meanwhile, Light Yagami, in his high school English class, observes his classmates playing games, whispering, and ignoring the lesson. On the way home, various crimes are being reported via public television. Ryuk and Light, in their respective worlds, think about how rotten the world has become. The next day in class, Light sees a notebook fall to the ground. He retrieves the notebook after school. At home, he doubtfully goes over the rules written inside the notebook and decides to test it by writing down the name of a criminal involved in a hostage situation on live TV. After 40 seconds, as he is about to turn the TV off, the hostages run out of the building unharmed. The criminal dropped dead of a heart attack, and Light is astonished. Still not completely convinced it was not a coincidence, Light decides to test the notebook a second time. He decides against killing Sudu, a bully at his school, to avoid killing anyone he actually knows. On his way, which in the live action movie, the US Netflix live action movie, that's how he tests. He actually kills the bully. So like it's a little different. I don't think fans of the anime like that, because Light is smarter than that, apparently. On his way home from cram school, which I don't know what that is, I guess it's like a study thing. He sees a motorcycle gang abusing a young woman. They're going to sexually assault her. Hearing that he heard the leader's name, so Light walks into a shop and writes his name down in a number of variations to make sure he spells his name correctly, which was smart. 40 seconds later, Takuo, which was his name, is struck by a passing truck, and realizing he has killed 2 people, Light is violently sick. In the Shinigami realm, the other Shinigami laugh at Ryuk for dropping his death note in the human world. Expressionlessly, he sprouts wings and flies through the portal. Light arrives home from school and gives his mother the results of the national practice exam. He waves off any offers a reward for placing first and goes to his room to be alone. Opening up the death note, several pages of the notebook are filled with names. Ryuk appears and Light screams and falls out of his chair in surprise. Ryuk introduces himself as the Shinigami who dropped the notebook. Collecting himself, Light informs Ryuk that he has been waiting for him. Ryuk is impressed with the number of times Light has used the death note in just 5 days and supplies Light with more information about the notebook. Light explains that he has been killing criminals with heart attacks, expecting people to begin realizing that someone is passing judgment on them. He has tasked himself with cleansing the world of evil and expects that once people realize someone is watching them and killing evildoers, everyone else will conform to good. While Ryuk wonders if this will make Light the only evil person left, Light brushes this aside and claims that he is one of Japan's top students who will reign over a new world as God. Ryuk appears satisfied that he has found something so interesting in the human world. End of episode. A lot more happens, but like that's the gist of it. That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, something that we didn't specify was like in that 5 days, Light goes to town. Like Light goes to town on killing people. I don't know how many people he said that he. I don't know if there's ever a number. I think he does say a number, but like, yeah, he like just. I mean, his dad's a police chief, so I think he has like specific access to like criminals and stuff. So he's just killing them all, and it's like he has like pages full after 5 days.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy,
pretty crazy, and he keeps going, and then it becomes L gets involved, and L I think quickly finds out who it is, but then it becomes about proving that it's him. How can you prove that it's him without some type of supernatural cause? And that doesn't, you can't prove that in the human world. So it becomes very much like Elle trying to prove that it's light, but trying to get like physical evidence. It kind of sort of becomes like a procedural cop show after a while.
Well, right, and that's just it. It's kind of like, you know, the decision making process, and then making that judgment, and then carrying it out. So it's a process,
Yeah.
because you're making all of these decisions and trying to do good with evil, but again, are you also doing evil with your good?
Yeah.
So it becomes this sort of dilemma.
Yeah, so definitely recommend, even if you're not into anime, I definitely recommend watching it, just giving it a try. It's available on so many platforms. I definitely can tell you to give it a try, even if you don't watch anime. But yeah, so I know this is going to be a short one, but are you ready to wrap this one up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, because,
All right.
we've got more to do.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. Oh, and we're also on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I only have a few emojis. So the skull for death, the piece of paper, the light bulb for light, the notebook, the motorcycle, the vomit emoji, any of the faces, any of the people faces, because he has to see their face, the heart for the inevitable heart attack if he doesn't, do
or the heartbreak,
the TV, and maybe the Japanese flag for anime.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.